Hello all, Thegamingbard here once again, and today I've brought you Double Dragon Advance for the Game Boy Advance. Now before I really get into the game, I just want to point something out on the box art. Obviously these two characters were drawn separately, otherwise it would not look this gay, and this, well, yeah, that's gay too, but if you know these two characters, you know they are not gay by any means. Now, is this game good? Yes, it is. And since I never really grew up with this game, I'm not going to get too far in depth with its history, so let's just jump right into it. The game retells the story of the first Double Dragon. Marion, Billy's girlfriend, is captured by the Shadow Warriors, and you must save her. Like many times before that, Jimmy is there to help out. However, getting his help might be a little tricky. Now, the most obvious method is by having a second player, but that will require 2 Game Boy Advances, 2 Double Dragon games, and a link cable. It's not a hard thing to set up, but it was more effort than I cared to invest. The cheapest method is the one option that allows one player to control both characters, and to be honest, I didn't find it so impressive. You were only able to control one character at a time, meaning one was left open to hits. And no, for the record, you cannot steal the other characters' lives in this game. The game also has a survival mode, which basically has various enemies coming at you in various numbers. I found it to be a good place to familiarize yourself with the game and master its controls. And in the options menu, you won't see much past the ability to change the difficulty, lives, and continues. Now, despite the old setup, the important things have been improved on, such as the graphics and sound effects. Music quality is rather decent, considering it's on the Game Boy Advance, and all the songs are based on the old games. But what's probably the biggest and most important change is in the gameplay. All of the moves are now command-based, and you still have a fair number of moves at your disposal. But before we get into the complex stuff, here's the breakdown of the basic moves. The A button does all of your punch combos, the B button does all of your kick combos, R allows you to jump, and the L button allows you to block. And from those 4 simple buttons, along with the D-pad, will allow you to get all the more complex moves off. And these more complex moves are pretty much the classic hyper uppercut, the hyper knee, the elbow, the cyclone kick, the ability to stomp on an enemy and punch them in the face. Those 2 being different moves, mind you. Just don't expect much in the grabbing department, other than the fact that you can grab more enemies now, such as a Bobo. Take that, sucker. But I'm not going to spoil every move, so I'll just wrap up by saying, out of all these moves, only 2 really overlap. And that would be the crouching and the stomp on the head move. Both require the A and B buttons to be pressed at the same time. The only difference is if there's an enemy on the ground or not, and the distance between you and him or her. I couldn't get a real handle on it myself, so be forewarned. Now, besides that one small problem of having 2 moves overlapping on the same button presses, I could only find 3 other negative things, and to be honest, they were rather trivial. The first one is the fact that this game is on a portable system. It doesn't really hold the game back, but it's harder to get a broader appeal on the game when it is on a portable system instead of a console. The second is a slight oversight by the makers. At one point, when you're fighting a boss, you might see a few enemies standing around doing nothing. Now, they will activate when you move farther to the left, but until you do that, they stand around and do nothing. In fact, once you beat the boss, they kind of spontaneously drop dead. It's a slight negative, but I can overlook it. The third, probably the most trivial, is the frequent use of a Bobo. It may not be so bad if you like the character, but if you loathe this character, you will find this game rather annoying. But despite those problems, is it a good game? Oh yes, definitely. And I would suggest it to anybody who loves the side-scrolling beat-em-up games, or Double Dragon 1 and 2. But would I consider it the ultimate Double Dragon game? Unfortunately, no. And it's really only missing one important factor, and that's the arcade feeling. What do I mean by the arcade feeling? Well, basically, trying to have as many players as possible playing the game, and as many people around watching or waiting in line to play it when one of them fails. Of course, arcades are mostly dead, so maybe I could just call it the multiplayer aspect. So despite the fact that I had a lot of fun with this game, I really can't call it the ultimate one. It's good as a side diversion, but it does not detract from the old classics, which I'm pretty sure is what it tried to do on a budget price, which is why it's on a portable and not one of the main systems. But still, despite that fact, I would say go out, get a copy, and have fun.